Picture this. You're scrolling through social media and suddenly you scroll past a post that looks like this. Suddenly you feel negative thoughts bubbling up in your mind until you land on one singular thought. I'm not good enough. This one is for those who feel inadequate, behind, and slow in life. And while I don't claim to have all the answers, nor am I here to solve your problems, I'm going to try to put things into perspective. So, let's begin. So you might be wondering how I landed on this idea, and here's my story. Whether I like to admit it or not, a couple years ago, I was one of those results-driven, academics-driven, pre-meds, as they like to call it, who really like to stay on top of the learning curve. More recently, due to a variety of reasons that we'll touch upon later, I felt like really dropping out of school last year. But I stopped one step short from doing that. Rationally, I told myself that this was the smart thing to do, and that I was simply just overreacting to how bad school actually was. Now, I know I kind of made this year out to be kind of bad because it was online and all, but I think, in general, it was actually not as bad as I thought. I was just complaining a bit too much. Somehow, I feel like I was kind of invalidating my own experiences because the only reason I would say it's not that bad is because I'm currently not experiencing it right now because I'm finished my second year. And I feel like that would trap myself in a vicious cycle because during the year I'm like, okay, this is pretty darn hard. It might be time to reconsider. But once I'm finished, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. Maybe I should go in for the next year. It's just a vicious cycle for me. I'm not sure if anyone else has experienced something like this. It's kind of like Stockholm Syndrome, if I understand that term correctly. Anyway, before all this commotion, my previous career trajectory has told me that this summer I would be taking the MCAT, which is basically the medical college's admission exam to get into medical school. But sadly, my plans were thwarted. And the fact that I know that a lot of my friends are actually taking their MCATs, LSATs, DATs, and other professional entrance exams to get to professional schools, I felt like I was just sitting here not really progressing or doing much while they're actually just getting ahead. And I just thought to myself, damn, I really am falling behind. And after I gave it a little bit more thought, I asked myself a few more questions. Like, am I really falling behind? What does falling behind even mean? And does it really matter in the end? And my answers to these questions are pretty much the purpose of this video. So, false passions. I chose this path to be a pre-med, to be a doctor in the future because originally I thought that I was very confident in my own abilities to do well in school. And while I still am confident in that ability, I just feel like I don't really care about whatever I'm learning in this degree anymore. Let me rephrase that. The profession that I was getting myself into, I really thought that it was a noble profession, but honestly, way out into the future, I don't really see myself doing that for a very long time. Not that hard work is bad or that I'm allergic to it or anything, it's just doesn't seem like something I would enjoy doing in the long term, which is just not mentally healthy to be doing something that you don't even believe in. And working so hard without knowing exactly why you're suffering is a pretty bad feeling if I do say so myself. To put this into perspective, I have a friend, let's call him G. And throughout my time knowing him, he has never gotten higher grades than me in anything, to my knowledge at least. And this year he actually found a career path that he was genuinely interested in, and he did a lot better than I did. Because while he was actually getting out there and working hard to pursue his path, I was just running around in circles, not really doing anything, and trying to figure things out because even now, I don't exactly know what I'm trying to do. So let me pose you one question. Are you even running the right race? Because all this time, I feel like I was only studying science because I did well in high school in those subjects, and never really questioned what else I could be doing with my time. Because, well, I got results, and results feel good. You get a good mark, you just feel like, oh, might as well keep doing it because that's what brings results. I used to envy those people who've had an idea of what they were going to do with the career path because I was doing better than them in the classes, but I wish I had their passion, you know? I mean, there was nothing wrong with the people who have lower grades because grades don't actually mean much in the grand scheme of things, besides getting you into a school. But after that, it doesn't really mean that much. But I wish somebody had told me that even if you get high grades in something, or if you get results, doesn't mean you have to put all your time and invest all your time spending time working on it. I feel like my time was better used elsewhere, discovering what I really wanted to do instead of just going at something because you get results. Like, just because you run really fast doesn't mean you should go to the Olympics. I mean, you could if you really like it, but you could find something else that gives your life meaning, and I just don't think science was that. So my point is, are you even running the right race? because I don't think I was. Even if you get results currently, do you feel alive while working? I mean, I'm not saying you have to love what you're doing, but if it's something that you really can't see yourself doing in the next 10, 20 years, then question yourself about it, because that's something that I regret not doing. And another question to ask yourself is, what is your purpose? Because if you suffer for no reason, like if you're going to school and you're like undergoing all this stress and you don't know why you're doing it, then you're really gonna feel like quitting. Like, trust me, I know the feeling. If you do have a reason, then even if you are suffering, then you at least know that there's a reason and you'll tough it out. If I actually knew and I wanted to be a doctor, then I wouldn't really mind feeling what I'm feeling. But it's because I know that what I'm going through right now, or the stress that I went through in the past that's school related, it didn't really have a purpose besides getting a mark. And once the mark is achieved, there's nothing else. So ask yourself this question. I currently don't have the answer, but figure out your own answer here. Genuine excitement. What does that look like? And even if you know that you're on the right path, why does it feel like you're always falling behind others? So my question to you is, are you letting someone else's pace dictate what you think your pace should be? Like, for example, think about running a distance race. If someone else is running and leading the pack, do you think you need to keep up with them the entire time if you know that you can't? Most of the time your answer is no, right? So why do you keep trying to ruin your own pace by comparing yourself to the person who's at the front? I have the perfect manga panel to describe this. It's from Sangatsu no Lion. It's a pretty good series in my opinion. So basically in this panel, this guy's a side character, but you get to see his thoughts. And if I recall correctly, he's in his 30s and he's about to play a professional shogi match, which is basically a more difficult version of chess, if I'm correct. Fact check me. With the main character, and basically the main character is a prodigy who went pro in middle school. Anyway, the man who is speaking or having his thoughts projected in the panel, he's been pro for over a decade and he's actually a pretty good pro, but the progress he's made in the past to get to his current position has taken him a little bit over a decade to achieve, but it only took the main character 2 years to achieve that same feat. This man has made steady progress, but nowhere near as quickly as the main character. But as you can see from the panel, he's not bothered at all by this fact. And why is that? It's because he loves shogi. So my question to you is, if you really love what you're doing and you know it's the right thing for you, then there's really no need to feel bad about yourself that you're going a little bit slower than other people. We are people, not robots, so nobody should be moving at the exact same pace. Otherwise, there's not going to be any competition or any point in trying if we're all capable of moving the exact same speed. We just click a few buttons and then we just go boop and get to our desired goals, all at the same pace, without really trying much. And while comparison is a normal thing, comparisons should stay as comparisons and you shouldn't let them consume you. Comparisons are normal because it's our way as humans to decide whether or not we're doing well or not. But it should just stay as that, as a guide to see whether or not you need to do a little bit more work or just keep going at the pace that you're going. And with this, I'll leave you one last question. Someone asked me this in high school and it really left an impression on me. So, you envy someone else's success, but would you actually be them? Would you live their lives? Have their habits? Because you want the results, but do you want everything else that comes with getting those results? I'll bring it back to the manga example. Because in the manga, the main character, the reason why he's so good at shogi is because he had nothing else but shogi to help him survive in his life. Because at a very young age, his entire family died in a car crash. And he had nothing else to hold on to help him survive in this world or make a living at all, besides playing shogi. Because as a kid, he played that game a lot with his father. And to survive, that's what he needed to get good at. So when you ever envy someone else, you can ask yourself, do you want to be that person? So, do you want to be that person? Do you just envy the results? Because everybody has gone through some shit at some point in their lives, and there's not a lot of room for envy in this world, to be honest. That's just my thoughts on the matter. So, I'll end this point off by saying, if you are running on the right path, are you too distracted by the pace of others that you kind of forget how much progress that you've actually made yourself? And another way to think about it is, if someone is ahead of you, that's just all the more reason to just work a little bit harder. There's no reason to feel bad about yourself. Just keep putting the work in and eventually you'll get to where you need to be. If this path truly gives you purpose, then keep working at it. There's no need to feel ashamed just because you work a bit slower than someone else, right? There's tons of people who are smarter than me, and there's tons of people smarter than you. It doesn't matter if I'm smarter than you or if you're smarter than me, right? I just don't think that matters. I used to think it mattered, but not anymore. And I hope that putting it into this perspective kind of helps. So my answer, in conclusion, your career of your life, my answer to this question is pretty simple. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Assuming that you're working around 8 hours a day, there's another 8 hours in a day that you can actually do something else. Instead of just autopiloting and watching mind-numbing entertainment like sports games. I mean, there's no problem with sports games. I watch them too sometimes. But watching sports games, YouTube, all these things that seem fun at the moment, but in the end, it doesn't really lead you anywhere. Like if you have something else that you really want to pursue outside of your work, then I suggest you do that in the rest of the time that you have outside your work. Because although entertainment is fun, ultimately, it does not bring you anywhere. Even if you watch educational content, I'm going to ask you, how much do you actually retain? Because I don't really retain that much. I retain some facts here and there, but deeply understanding concepts and stringing them together and stringing together other concepts with that, it's not really a deep understanding. It's just some facts stringed together. And I don't think it's that useful and ultimately fulfilling in the end. But yeah, all this stuff is just my version of the answer, my version of the truth. If you agree or disagree with any of these points that I've made, then just let me know in the comments because I read it. And I respond most of the time. And in the end, it's your life, so find your own answers. Think critically, and just because I said something doesn't mean you have to agree with it. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it at that. And because most of us, judging from my video analytics, we're from first world countries, we really don't have that much to complain about because we're given the tools that we need to succeed most of the time. So, keep working. I'm trying. So, yeah, do your best. Anyway, that's about it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe with post notifications on because I might be out for another while. Because I just made this video because I was thinking about it a lot and I was like, might as well break my 1 month hiatus. Anyway, that's about it. See ya.